As I'll introduce myself, I'm René from ICANN. But as you can see at the bottom left, we have RedBridge, because we have created a new brand, RedBridge, to promote our lifecycle management solutions for the Oracle products. Today we will mainly have it about the Oracle Data Integrator, but our solution can also be used for other Oracle products like the more classic or older ones, Forms, Report, but also for the current Java Fusion environments. And soon we will add a solution for, I hope, Apex and OBI, as we have been asked by Oracle to have a look at these. Okay, so when we talk about lifecycle management in general, and specifically here for ODI, I think you should make a distinction between three important, what I would call, steps. So first you have the development, which is the comfort zone of a developer. And in our solution, we allow the developer to work the way he was used to work. The only thing we added is a versioning component that could not be integrated in ODI itself, because you cannot call, let's say, external products from within the ODI as it has been architecture today. But let's say we have a separate versioning component that allows you to commit things you have developed in ODI into Subversion, but also to check out code from Subversion into the ODI Studio. What is the importance of it? Versioning will allow your developers to do concurrent work, and later in the cycle it will also give you a view on the different versions, releases you have. And then the next step is the build and deploy, and that we will do and show with the ICANN ALM components. Okay, here is a short overview of how we work with ODI. You have the ODI Studio. There is the ODI VCR or version control repository connector that, as I just explained, allows you to commit and to check out code from Subversion. Today we just support Subversion because, and I don't know if I should tell you this, but there are some bugs in the ODI, so we cannot currently support ODI 12. But we have had contact with Oracle Labs, and they promised us they will solve these issues soon. So they are aware of it, they can reproduce it, and they agreed with us that these were things they should solve in order to make ODI 12 work with our solution. And then the next step you will see is the lifecycle management component, where out of the starting from the Subversion, we can call do a build, and then deploy it to testing, acceptance, production environments. But after the slides, I will give you a live demo on how it works. So a very important first thing to do is when you want to do lifecycle management, is to have an agreement on your, what I would call, versioning strategy. A very common used strategy is that you have your trunk, the head development, and that you continue to develop on that, and every time when you have a new release you branch it. Like you see here in the in this slide, we have the trunk with the branch release 2.1 and 2.2, and we continue to develop in the trunk. We have set, in the demo you will see that we have set up our project in that way, that we use the trunk or head for normal development, and that we have two branches, one for release 2.1 and the second one for release 2.2. Also, when you do hot fixes or bug fixes, you will see that you do this on the branches. This is also possible in our solution as I will present it. And of course, when you have done this, you have to, let's say, reapply these bug fixes to your that you did in your release branch, and you have to merge them into the trunk. But I think this is a general practice that most people know that work with versioning systems. Now, when we look at ICANN ALM, I think it's very important to make a distinction or to talk about the different roles and the process. As already said, the process that we have presented here is that we use the trunk for normal development, and what we do here is we apply the agile or Scrum way of working. But again, you also can still, if you want to do so, use the classic waterfall methodology. As you can see in the picture here, the different roles are in our demo here, the developers. The ICANN ALM administrator has to set up the life cycle and the different phases to do the build and deploys. The release manager, the person responsible for deploying to test acceptance and production. And of course also the people from quality assurance and testing that have to play a role in the whole story. So when we look at the administrator, what does he need to do? He is responsible for doing the setup. Set up the version control repository, setting up the life cycles, also the deploy and build scripts, and also approvals and notifications. Because before you deploy something to test acceptance or production, you can make this approval based. And it's also possible to administer the system in such a way that for every action taken to the product, you can have a notification, you'll receive an email about what happens. The second role is the developer, and again, as I said in the beginning, the developer can stay in his comfort role. The only thing we ask him to do is, as before, to develop the code and to commit his code into the version control repository. What he also can do, because it's also a feature of our product, if you are using an issue tracking system like Jira, Bugzilla, or whatever, you can also give the issue or requirement numbers in the command statement of your when you do commit to the versioning, and then we will pick this requirements or issue tracking numbers up, and we will update the issue tracking system. But again, I will show this in the demo how this works. So the tester, well, the tester will what he needs a running build or a running deploy. And you know today how difficult it is to or how difficult the communication is between developers and testers and operations. What we do with our product, we will make sure that a tester has a full functional test quality assurance environment. Yeah? So he has not to go back to development because some things are missing. He will also have a perfect view on the issues or requirements that are solved by that build, and I will show also that he will also have a list of available builds to test, because when you are in continuous integration, it's possible you do a new build every day, but a tester can refresh his testing environment once a week, once a month, and then he will have all available builds and the related issues, so he can pick the build he wants to deploy to his testing environment. And of course, he will also update the issue tracking system so that the developer knows if a bug has been solved or not, or there still is an issue. If the build is okay, testing passed, then he can approve it to move to the next phase in the life cycle. The release manager, what he does is, let's say everybody can play the role of the release manager. It's just a question of having the authority, and for that we are using Open Directory or LDAP to administer the authorizations you have to work within ICANN ALM. But normally the release manager, he can say, okay, I launch the build. We also have a continuous integration, which means that when you put something into the versioning system, we can launch the build automatically, so there is no human intervention. We can do a deploy, and in worst case, if something would go wrong in production, we also can do a rollback to the prior version of your software. A small moment on the architecture. ICANN ALM is a web-based application, so the only thing you need as a user is a web interface. We have a central server, and that central server communicates with the ICANN database. That's our repository where we keep all the metadata. We have an archive where we keep all the, let's say, built code, so we can use it for deployment. And a very important feature of ICANN ALM is what we call the phases. And a phase is a reusable piece of code which is parameter driven. In fact, basically it's an end script or a maven script that has been packaged and is ready for reuse. So the only thing in our case that you need to do if you want to use our solution for lifecycle management for ODI is to fill in the parameters for the phases for ODI, like we have a deploy phase. So for instance, you need to give the name of your repositories, user ID and password and these things. But again, I will show this during the demo. As you can see, we can work with one or more version control repositories. Currently for ODI, we just support Subversion. Git will follow soon. and probably will also support CVS. And at the other side, you see the issue tracking systems, or a number of issue tracking systems, for example, that we can support. Again, we have a server agent architecture. This means that you can have, let's say, separate machines which are in the same or different locations, where you can do a local build or a local deploy. So let's say, suppose that you outsource your development, where your developers can reside, let's say, in India. They will check in their code into your versioning system, and then you can, at your own location, you can launch a build, and the testing environment will be deployed, let's say, in your own environment, or let's say to an environment where you have people that are responsible for testing. So this is a small intro. I'll go now to the demo environment. So I'm using a virtual machine for that, and I will start with the VCR for ODI connector. So it's a separate piece of software, because we could not integrate it into ODI itself, as there was a lack of API to do so. So the VCR connects at one hand with the repository, so you can have the, let's say, in our case here, I'm connected to the development repository, but you can also connect to a production or test repository. And then we also have the connection parameters for subversion. And again, you can change this. In our case here, we are connected to the train. I can test my connection to see if everything is okay. And he will say me, okay, test is okay. Then I can start the VCR for ODI. And the VCR for ODI will give me two views. I will have, let's say, a view on the ODI repository, but I can also have a view on the subversion repositories, and I can have a view on the head revision, or I can also, let's say, pick another revision if I would like to do so. When I look at the restore, I have several options. I can, when I click the restore button, he will restore the selected objects. For instance, I select here, I'll do it, all the models. Then he will restore these models plus all dependencies of these modules. So it's a logical restore. He will not only restore the selected objects, but everything which is logically dependent on it. And a simple restore is just restoring the object you selected, because, for instance, if you have a small change to make, you made a typewriting error, you can say, okay, I just take this object, I will make my change and then commit it again. The locking is used to prevent that more than one person should work on the subversion repository and that you would have conflicts. But the locking is just maintained during the operations. And then you have the versioning. Again, you will have a look at your repository. In my case, is the development repository, and I can select one or more objects to commit. But I will not do that. I will, let's say, open Studio, and I will apply a small change. So I will connect to the repository. I will connect to my development repository. Okay. Then I will open a package. Have a look at the diagram. Here I have a package. One other important thing, when, for instance, I move something here on the diagram, this is not what we call a change that has impact. So these changes will not be stored in the subversion repository. But what I will do, I will add something here. I will copy this variable. I will edit it, I'm sorry. I will change the name. So I just will do a test to see if this variable has a value of 1. And then I will delete this link, and I will link. So this is the change I made. I'm going to save the changes. I also will show you that in my test environment. So I connect now to the test environment, and we see there that I don't have that extra variable. So I just have one variable and not the one where I will check if it's equal to 1. So now, as I said, the work for the developer is done. I can close ODI Studio. I go back to my VCR connector. And now I can select the whole project, or I can select the object I changed. What I will do, so in my project what I changed was in this folder a package multi-objects. I select it, and then I can say okay, commit. And what he will do now, he will compare with what is in Subversion, and will give you a list of all the objects so that you can see what has been added, changed, deleted, and what has been or stayed, if I may call it that way, unchanged. One of the things we also do, because you see at the bottom of the screen these scenarios, we also will create the scenarios so that you have, let's say, a well-performing application. So I said here the change state is unchanged. I changed the package. I can say, okay, I commit it now. And here, as I explained, I can give one or more commands. So let's say I have two issues, ODI1 and ODI2. And I will, in my commit, add these in the comment statement. So when ICANN is doing the build and deploys, he will take these two issue numbers and he will update. Also in my case here, I'm using Jira with the needed information. So the commit was executed correctly. You can refresh here. And again, this is the second step, so I can close if I want VCR for ODI, and I can go to ICANN. Again, to access the, let's say, the rights are defined using Open Directory or LDAP, so I don't have to redefine these. And when I log on to ICANN, the first screen I see is what we call the desktop, and I can customize the desktop to show the projects I'm working on. Like if I go, for instance, to my project administration, I have here the ODI master, and I look at my project streams. I have one for the head stream, so for my continuous development is the base life cycle, and I also have, let's say, one for the two releases. So when I would do hotfixes, emerging changes, I can do this on the release and not on the head stream. Okay? So I go back to the desktop, and what I will do, I will create, or I will do a build. What the build does is he will assemble all the ODI objects to create a release or to create a deploy to, in our case here, test, acceptance, and production. So once I have done a level request, I can have detailed information. I have here the summary information, but I have also the phase logs. I have the results of my build in this case. If approvals, I will have a list of approvals. I can see the issues that are related to this build, in my case here, ODI 1 and 2. I can also see the sources related to this and the modifications I did. Another feature of ICANN is that you also can define dependencies between projects. If, for instance, and this is what we will do in the future, you have an end ODI and OBI, you can define a dependency between the ODI and OBI project so that both will move together through the life cycle, going to test, acceptance, and production. Okay, so I've seen that my build has been successfully executed. When I look at the phase logs, you see that the phases I have here is he will retrieve the code, he will build it, he will also say on what machine he built it, he will tag the code, he will update the issue tracking system, and then he will clean up the work copy. Again, we have a number of predefined phases, and we make a distinction between what we call core phases. These are phases you cannot touch or are part of the product, and you also have custom phases. And custom phases can be delivered by us, or you can develop your own custom phases, but I will come back on that later. So when I look at the results, I can see here what the result is, and I can eventually even download the build results. I don't have approvals here. Issues, as explained, I have two issues. When I click on the issue, it will open for me the related issue tracking system. In this case, is Jira. Then I have to log on. And I can see all the issue information, and he added, I'm using every time the same example, of course, he added the comment so I can see the related item 11 request, also the project ID, it's a build VCL tax number, the build number. And I can go from Jira also to IKLM to the correct build here in this case. So my build has been executed correctly. I can do now a deploy to test. You see that I have here, let's say, two builds I can deliver. IKLM will show you the build that is currently in the higher level, here in this case test, and all the higher builds. So I can have here, let's say, 5, 10 builds to deploy. If I want, I will select the one I would like to do. We also have deploy parameters, so you can define parameters at a level, but also at an environment level. So here in this case, I can, for instance, say, okay, what project do I want to deploy? Do I want to restore all objects, or do I want to restore from a project list? Do I also want to create a repository? Yes or no? So we have a special phase that helps you by creating worker master repositories. So we select the build 41. And again, I can go to the screen that says, okay, this what we call request is running, and I have again the phase logs, results, approvals, issues, sources, modifications, and dependencies related to this. So when I go back to the studio, I will connect to that test repository to show you that I still have the old code. So I'm now in test. I open my folder and the package. And look at the diagram. You see here I have the one variable and not the second one that I added. But this is what will happen now through the deploy to the test environment. IKLM will do that for me. So I can show you the phase logs again. We have the retrieval of the code, the build and test code. But I can, for instance, here the Oracle ODI repository creation that we do here in this step. Yeah. I can look at the parameters that I have to add or that I added. So I can say here what is the ODI master, password, user ID, and the same for ODI and the repository, so the name of the repository, password, and these things. But again, we let's say we have developed a complete ODI solution, but it's up to you to create your own lifecycle. If you say, well, I don't want development, test, acceptance, production, I want an extra level, or I want just development, test, production, you can do that. Also phases, you can reuse the phases we have built for you, or you can modify the phases we have built, or you can add your own phases. For instance, when you do an ODI deploy, it's also possible that you want to do database updates. So then you have a phase that helps you to update your Oracle database, for instance. It's possible that you want to start an application server. Again, there is a phase for helping you with that. Or you can have automated test scripts. So we can have a phase that calls these test scripts, executes them, and depending on the outcome, defines the next action. Okay, the deploy has happened. I have a warning, and the warning, don't worry, is because I have not cleaned up my build result, because as a developer or IKLM administrator, I'm still in what I would call debug mode, so I want to see if something goes wrong where it happens. So I'm still here in debug mode. But now I want to see is my deployment to the ODI Studio test environment contains the right code. So again, I connect to the repository. I deploy to test. I look at my folder and the package I changed. Okay, and you will see now that I added or I deployed, let's say, the change I made in development, and I feel also now in my test environment the variable that I created to see what happens. So this is a short overview on how we can do lifecycle management for ODI, starting from the ODI Studio, using the Vleeschauwer for ODI to commit the changes to the versioning repository, and then I can ALM for the build and deploy procedures. But I still can show you some more information. I already explained you the project stream, so I have a project stream, the head stream with 2 releases, but related to that we also have a life cycle. And here the standard life cycle, and we call it levels. We have a build level, a test level, user acceptance level, and a production level. And for each level you can have also notification. We haven't implemented it here. You also have the notification where we have, let's say, the pre-approve and post-approve, so you can ask an approval before you deploy, but you can also ask an approval after deployment has happened. It's very easy to create extra test or production levels. Yeah? So I would like to create a level. I just click and I give it a name, and I have to give them a limited number of informations to do that. Then we also have the build environments. So an environment is a physical machine where you do build. I can show you the phases. So here I have a special phase we developed for ODI, and I can see here the phase parameters that you can adapt to your own environment. And like for instance, I can here change the parameter value to define my my targets. For instance, for deploy environments, the one we just executed. Okay, here are the parameters for creation of the ODI repository. How does the phase concept work? For that we have what we call the global admin, and in the global administration you have an overview, or can have an overview of the phases. So for instance, I have here the create repository, and I can see here the different parameters I need, and I have also the connected levels and environments with that phase. Again, the phases we have, you can export them, you can change them according to your needs or add extra code if you want, and then you can import them again and use them in your life cycle to do the actions you want or you would like to execute. So this is I can ALM. I can also show you our reports component. I'm going to start it. So again, we have a number of predefined reports, but experience learned that every customer wants different reports or different layout or different information. So we have here a number of sample reports, and we are using Jasper reports. For this, you can define very easily your own reports if you would like to do so. So I look for that the project configuration. My ODI project. And again, I could, for instance, say, okay, I want it as PDF. And you see here my project configuration, the life cycles overview, the base and the releases. I have the project stream, the related info for the project stream. So it's very detailed. Also the levels you have. So you have also complete documentation of your lifecycle management environment for